Monday, August 14th, 2017. First up, we need approval of the agenda. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Carl? Agenda approved. Move on to item 3. Public comment. Here's we're short on public today. Have no public to comment for the record. Move on to item 4, the minutes. Need a motion and support to approve the minutes unless there are any changes. These are for the July 17th meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Passes unanimous. Next up, item 4B, Land Bank Authority semi-annual report. We'll put that on hold, see if the treasurer shows up, I guess. Yeah. Item 4C, facilities. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
2 projects here to talk about.
In front of you, you have a staff report for some new flooring at the front of the court. We're replacing carpet that's 15 to 20 years old in a variety of offices.
Questions, discussion?
I'd so move the request.
Support.
Motion support. I have a question. Carpet squares, are they durable and do they hold up, or?
They wear like iron because we use the 26-ounce Shaw product, which is the same stuff that we have here in the chambers and on the 6th floor. And any time we're installing new carpet, we're using these 26-ounce carpet squares. The best part about them is if they get damaged, we just pop the square up and glue a new one down. It
Seems
works.
like I remember them from back in the day where you'd have a corner always trying to curl up or something, you know, and that popped into my mind. When at first I thought, wow, makes sense. I mean, if they've got the adhesive part of it.
The adhesive works well.
Good, all right. We have motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next up, D, facilities again. We got electric upgrade.
Correct. In front of you, you have a quote from B&H Electric for electrical upgrades at the youth center for $29,859. This is going to be a phase 1 of a phase 2 project where we'll be upgrading the main distribution panel to a 600 amp 208-120 panel, and then consolidating 2 older 200 amp panels into one panel, and then all the electrical feed coming into the building.
Okay. Commissioner Elwell.
Rick, if I understood it right, this is taking money that was originally intended for the generator and doing this portion of it that wasn't planned, and then moving the generator portion till later. Is that
To next year.
right? Okay, and it'll have money left over, I assume? Sounds like.
We'll have some funding left over that we'll carry forward to accomplish that.
Any other conversation? Questions? We have a motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice report. Next up, item 4E, information technology, Windows Server upgrade. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before you today is a staff report requesting funding to upgrade the Windows operating system on our servers in the data center. We have a patchwork quilt of servers, and at this point we'd like to, consistent with our plans to go to the enterprise perspective, establish a standard operating system for all servers. This will provide greater performance, it'll provide improvements in security, and will enhance the ability to provide in-house support because we have one version of the operating system to support.
Thank you. Discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
When you look at your staff report, it says that you have over 90 servers, but when you look at the bid, it's only for 24. Is that because it comes with multiple licenses, so you don't need that many?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, let's proceed with the motion. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Thank you, Board. Passes unanimously. Next up, Don?
Thank you. This next staff report is for the upgrade of our imaging system called OnBase from OnBase 2013 to OnBase 2017. Currently, our imaging system is running several versions behind. This will enable us to provide the most current version to our users. It will provide improvements in operations and stability. There are a number of issues that we're currently working with that have been addressed in the new version. And the other issue that we have that will be addressed by this is there are different implementations of OnBase on the county level. This will enable us to establish one implementation across the county, once again, for more standardization and efficiency of operation.
Thank you. Discussion? Motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Passes unanimous. Thank you. Good job on keeping them going.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, we have finance. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, what we're presenting is the monthly financial statements for June 30th. So our budget benchmark is 50%. Actual expenditures are a little above that at 51%, and also above our three-year average of 48.9. In the financial statements, you'll note there's three items for which we are requesting budget amendments, which is the next item. And those items would be the public elections, which, again, because of primary elections, there was additional printing costs, some of which are reimbursable, according to Amanda, and some of which are not. The costs are not. So there's, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. We'll have a budget amendment for that. Also, Lifeways maintenance, we do, in addition to monthly revenue that we receive in accordance with the contract with Lifeways, there's also additional work performed for Lifeways on an ad hoc basis. So we're increasing that to reflect additional services provided. And thirdly, we're also, and this is not a big surprise, we're seeing additional suicides and overdoses, deaths in the county, most of which require autopsies that they be performed. So we need to adjust for the number of autopsies in the county, which are at an all-time high year to date. Continuing on the revenue side, and I'm looking at a couple of items, one of which is the prosecutor's office. We did address some of the items in the 2018 budget in that there are functions in the prosecutor's office for which, for example, he had a white-collar crime initiative that is prosecuting people who write bad checks. That initiative did not get off the ground. We've addressed that in 18, but we have to address that in 19 by reducing the revenue that's there. We also looked at, the items that are in process and for 2018, and there are additional revenues coming from the state of Michigan for driver's license appeals, and also additional revenue that's been billed for inmate cases. And again, that is subject to court approval. And I'm told that in some cases, the revenue available is really what's kind of left over. In other words, in a case where there's restitution of victims, the restitution comes first, and then the additional amounts may or may not be available, for reimbursement of inmate cases, and so forth. What's not reflected in the revenue is a $50,000 transfer from the drug forfeiture account. And again, drug forfeiture account, there's revenues accumulated in there due to various activity in connection with drug activities. And so that transfer has not occurred, so there's an additional $50,000 there. So basically, this would be, we've addressed 3 items in this month's budget, and we'll address these other items as we go along. Thank you. Mr. Elwood.
Questions?
Jim, working backwards then, I guess I hadn't caught the drug forfeiture transfer, but so that was from a forfeiture account?
Yes, there is a separate fund, and forfeiture money is accumulated in there, and at the discretion of the prosecutor, he can use that. He has to budget that, but he can use that in various manners, and we had budgeted $50,000 a year in the 2017 budget.
And where did that get moved to, that 50,000?
Well, it has not been moved yet. It requires just a transfer on our part, which we did not do.
Okay.
At this point.
And does that then, I think there's still a state requirement to file forfeiture reports on a yearly basis.
Yes.
Have those been filed, and is that something we could see?
I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, I think they're mandatory filings. I think I'd like to see that. And of course, they did open up what you can expend drug forfeiture funds on, but I'd like to see those reports if we could for maybe last year and this year. And if I can ask a couple more questions, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I had talked to the administrator this morning about the prosecuting attorney revenue line. So it shows 331,910 as revenue, and we've only received 21,510, which is 6.5%. So is that full amount from that white collar, I think, bad checks program that you were talking about, or are there other things in there?
Yeah, there's a couple other items. There is $100,000 for the bad check writing program that's in the budget. There's also, there's $35,000 for this inmate reimbursement. They think that'll be $26,000. I'm told that has been billed to the court, but they haven't received anything to date. The driver's license appeals, the budget is $6,000. That has been received just in August. So and that comes from the state of Michigan. So we're catching up with that revenue. There's also, let's see here. One additional item that was budgeted. It's the OWI cost of prosecution. And we budgeted $60,000. Prior year we had 10. The prosecutor thinks that it would be around 40, so there'll be a shortfall there that we'll have to adjust for to the difference.
And we've received none in the first 6 months on that, or
No, we received $4,500 in the first 6 months.
out of 60,000?
Yes.
I guess I don't follow how that we could end up at 40 6 months into the year on that, but
I'm curious too now. I thought I heard you say when I was doing math in my head there that basically we're $150,000. We're not sure where it's.
That we will get that. That is correct.
Yeah, right. So
That is correct.
we believe that number 331 should be 180 instead of 331
Yes.
at this point.
Yes.
So we're going to fall
Approximately.
short of 150,000.
Right. And question, what do we do about that? And the issue is we have, and you'll see this in the budget amendments, the good news in the budget is that there's additional document fees in the Register of Deeds office and additional transfer tax available, and I'm estimating that is in total about $300,000, et cetera. So the intent, we always, as we go through the year, again, we have to adjust for events that are different than what we anticipated.
So when discussing it with the prosecutor, he hasn't indicated any way to make up the 150.
He has not indicated how he would do that, and I believe.
What's the general fund draw for the prosecutor's office?
Budgeted $1.5 million net cost to the general fund. And again, we did address the items at least, because the similar items were in the 2018 budget. We've adjusted the 18 budget for these items.
Well, I'm glad for that, but I'm concerned about the impact on the year end. I mean, we may make it up in other departments, I suppose,
We
but.
will.
But Jim, just to go back, so I wrote down 100,000 on checks, 35 on inmate, 6,000 on DLAD it's called,
Yes.
I think, and then 60,000 on OWI. That's just about 200,000.
Well, yeah, it's not a 60,000. I think prosecutor believes he can get 40 there, so that's a $20,000 hit there.
Okay, so where's the other 120,000 come from then on revenue? And if you don't know, I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah, there's revenue, let's say there's a forfeiture, there's also bond forfeiture revenue of, that's only 15.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate your answers, but maybe next month I'm going to ask the question again, so maybe we can have firm answers, and I'm assuming that we'll be doing budget adjustments then sometime soon on all those?
Yes, we will.
Okay. And then also just a reaffirmation on the school liaison program. We amended, I think, the expenditure side, but not the revenue side, correct? Before?
I believe we did a small amendment to revenue because the sheriff felt that there was additional
Okay,
revenue.
so we think that's still on track. We're still going to hit the 150 mark or close to it on that. And there was one other thing. Man, I should have wrote it down. Okay, oh, yeah, the animal shelter. We got 202 budgeted for revenue there. We're only at 45, 22%. Do we anticipate that's going to hit budget or not?
I think, yeah, that's another area where I think there'll be a shortfall there, and we'll look at what that will entail. There's some additional, again, there's occasionally there's another fund where we transfer revenue in. Well, there's two funds, really. There's the Friends of Fund, which are used for capital type improvements, but then there's a spade and neuter fund. And I think typically there's 50,000 in that, and that's a fund that's been carried over, and we kind of use that as needed for various items at the animal shelter.
Okay, I appreciate the detail. And again, I'll be asking the same questions next month on that 331,910, so.
Bill?
Go ahead, Sarah.
I just want to make sure I was hearing this right. So for the jail portion with the inmate, were you expecting an additional 35,000 for this year and that's it? Because obviously, I mean, I know that they have the legislation set the jail bed price, but our current DOC department head has indicated to the locals that she's not going to utilize local jails, for beds.
Not to
Very
interrupt,
often.
but I don't think that's the same thing, is it, Jim?
Is
You're-
it not?
No.
Is that
the
why
30
it's so low? Because I see it's, like, anticipated is 755 and it's only 143.
But I think the 35,000 that you mentioned is reimbursement the prosecutor gets, Jim? Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's obviously going to be a big shortfall. Does that include inmate reimbursement, that line right there?
You're talking about the prosecutors?
No, this is actually under jail, sheriff.
Same page,
Same page.
down the next one.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that's been adjusted for the difference. There is still some inmate revenue, but it's not at the level it was before. So that was, as you recall, it was adjusted last year, and we also reflected it this year in the 17 budget.
If I can interject another one.
Commissioner Hillwell?
So, Mike, you've got a plan, because as Sarah points out, that's a $755,000 revenue line that's only at 18%. That probably is going to be significantly short. And you start adding these up, you're probably going to be $750,000 probably, right? And is that factored into the discussions that you're having for this year? Well,
Yeah.
for this year I'm talking about. But you're also, being forward-thinking, you're also looking at next year's budget and the years after with these particular hits? Because I haven't heard discussion about these, but are they?
partly why we had.
Well, but it behooves, not to belabor the point, but it behooves us as commissioners, I guess, to track these things when we approve budgets and we're told what revenues will be. I mean, we've got a track record on a lot of them, like the Register of Deeds, she always brings in huge revenue, but it behooves us to pay attention to these, because after we put them in the budget, we don't have any choice but to amend it later to take it back out again on the negative side. So hopefully we're not being overly realistic on some of these revenue lines, and I think we are. I mean, saying the number makes it look good in the budget, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't.
Yeah, agreed with that. And typically, again, we've moved things around. I think obviously the biggest number is the prosecutor's office.
Yeah, Jim, I don't blame you for these, and I appreciate your detailed answers, so.
What is it? I'm just the messenger here.
We give, to be frank, we give people, and especially elected officials, some latitude when they have some new program they're bringing forward that they believe and tell us that it's going to do X, Y, and Z. We give them latitude, and frankly, they either perform or their latitude is reduced considerably in the future budgets because, that's what you told me last time. At the end of the day, I still got to balance the budget, and look what you've done to me. That's kind of how I operate that kind of stuff, and they get it until they have lost it, if you know what I mean.
But if I can add one more comment, Mike, as one commissioner, what I rely on for you it's kind of the same thing as you're telling them. When you come to us with these budgets, I hope that you've had those hard questions, that, it behooves us to ask those questions now in here, but again, they come from you. We rely on you to work through these budgets and bring us a realistic number. I mean, we talk about getting into the weeds on some of the issues with the road department, but we have to watch those things and ask the tough questions. But my expectation is that you'll be asking them before we get them.
Yep,
No.
I hear you, I understand, and we do, frankly. We have some very difficult conversations with folks. But at the same time, I have to trust, verifiable trust but verify. Let's put it that way. And people have opportunity to prove that what they're telling us is correct. And if it's not, they better have a reason why and what happened.
Well, the end of this budget year will be interesting with $750,000 shortfall or more.
Commissioner Rice, go ahead.
This could be either for Jim or Mike. No, obviously, every time we do a year-end budget, as Jim alluded to earlier, there is adjustments that are made, and typically we end up being okay, if you will. We take from here because they use a little less. We take from here. So, that being said, on the flip side, and I agree with what the commissioners are saying here, we have to, and what you're saying, Mike, we have to be on top of this, and obviously the budget's very tight, but also on the flip side, we have departments that are giving an estimation of what they need. They have a budget, but yet they're not using it at all. So you have that to take into consideration too. It's like, okay, why aren't you meeting your objective? You're $100,000 less, you're $200,000 less, you're $300,000, whatever it may be. So why didn't you use it? I think there's a combination of things going on here that we need to really take a look at.
Just one comment, and then I'll shut up on this issue. Carl, what you're saying is accurate. At the end of the year, we do find many departments that are higher on revenue, and that tends to make up for the ones that are lower on revenue. But when you're taking big hits on the revenue side, that's impacted, although you can adjust it out at the end because of the other revenue. The fact is that that's money, if it's budgeted properly and on target at the end of the year, we don't have to take from the general fund. And that's where we're taking the hit. So granted, amongst all the county budgets, yes, it does average out, but if it was on track and on target on the revenue side and expenditure, then you wouldn't have to take as much from the general fund. So,
If I may, just,
Go ahead.
it,
Mike.
where it really gets to be difficult and frankly can be downright ugly behind closed doors is when I have the same individuals or department that comes to me year after year trying to do the same thing, meaning they're overstating their revenues, so they could, I look at that and we don't allow that. So everyone gets their shot, but that can't be, you can't do that every year. And frankly, some of these, and prosecutor's one of them, at the end of the day, we don't have a whole lot of choice. We have to fund the prosecutor out of general fund. And what'd you say it was, 1.5, 1.3, $1.5 million? He was trying something new. He took a shot, so we went with him and budgeted it. It's not working out the way he had hoped or we had hoped. And, you have those things. But, take a little risk. But at the end of the day, we'll make it all work before the end of the year. And he understands that, so.
A lot of good questions. I think we need to have some extra scrutiny on this. I'm really alarmed at how we've missed our revenue in these systems by so far. You budget 100,000 and you've got 6,000 or 4,500. It's just like, wow. Commissioner Tompkins, go ahead.
Yes, I don't know the exact numbers, but year-to-date autopsy, the number of autopsies required is significantly higher than the year before, if we look at the year-to-date numbers. Last year was higher than the year before, so we continue to see an increase cost there. And the autopsy, in some cases, it's reimbursed by the state, but in most cases, we have to bear that cost. So whenever there is, I don't know all the exact rules, but whenever there is a drug overdose, then an autopsy is required, I believe, in most cases. So we bear that cost. So.
The sheriff said that the number of shootings and deaths and so on in the county or the city was down. Okay, therefore you don't need it for that. And therefore, I'm wondering, is this secondary to the heroin
Yes,
aspect of it? Okay, and
I
so
believe
on.
it is.
And then the number of autopsies really is controlled by the medical examiner, because the medical examiner decides this is a routine case of this, okay, or no, this is questionable, okay, and we need to get an autopsy. So is there any control over who the medical examiner decides? Because he could just be saying, yeah, everything gets an autopsy like this and so on, and that raises your cost.
That's a good question. I'll get an answer for you. I do know in some cases where an autopsy is required, because then I think they're prosecuting anyone who's related, say someone who gave the drugs, to the victim, to the decedent. So in that case, autopsy is required, I would think. Now, again, but I'll try to clarify that with you.
Commissioner Elwell.
yeah, Phil, I just wanted to comment on the doctor's comments. I'll vouch for the great job the ME's office does, both Dr. Mano and Joe Glare, and autopsies are up. Heroin deaths are up. I think they said shootings are down in the city, but I don't know where deaths are, but they're just a lot of heroin deaths. And they follow a protocol on when an autopsy is typically done, but, we contact the ME's office every time we go out on a DOA, they're called, and, the set of circumstances may dictate that the ME isn't sure, we're not sure, so they do an autopsy. And I think I had mentioned here a month or two ago, I don't have any problem making these adjustments every year if they're up or down. And there are counties in Michigan, it seems like Ingham was one of them, that had a push on to assess a millage countywide or a fee countywide on a per capita basis to contract for autopsies. I don't support that, because if you're doing it on a per capita basis and if the heroin problem gets somewhat cured and the deaths drop, you're still paying that higher amount, and that isn't appropriate. You know, we have a large enough budget, this is a small enough part of it, that I think it's appropriate. You know, the autopsies are what they are. Dr. Mano's got a great track record in that regard, and if we have to adjust it, I'll support it. So,
Any further discussion? Thanks for your report, Jim. I'll move on to item 4H, budget adjustment.
Yes, as mentioned previously, this is budget amendment for basically three departments. One is public elections, and the other is Lifeways maintenance, which will recoup the revenue for that item, and for the medical examiner. So the total is an increase to both revenue and expense of $105,000.
Okay, discussion? If not, I need a motion and support to send this to the full board.
Support.
We have a motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Moving on to 4I, another budget adjustment, this time for Department on Aging.
Yes, I can speak in general, but Marcy is here to answer any specific questions. And basically, there is a net increase of expense and revenue of $78,097 to be exact, and there's a summary page and detail pages that follow. And there are revenue changes with respect to some of the expenditures, but the bottom line is that there's a net change of $16,165, and that amount we will obtain from the senior millage account to fund. So there's really no effect on the general fund in this case for the $16,000.
I would so move the request.
Okay, we have motion support. Any questions on this? Apparently not. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Good report, good explanations as usual. Moving on to item 5. Need a motion support to pay the claims. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, board. They're all signed and we're done with that. I don't see any other minutes to look at. We don't have anything on reporting schedule. We'll return to public comment. Item 6, no public. Item 7, committee member comments. Anybody have a comment here? No comments. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, board.